It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We came to Japan to do online teaching and prove that there is such a thing as a stupid question. There are thousands of them. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Welcome back to another edition of Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey, and Mike Miller's back.
Hi.
I had another story, Mike, about schools. I learned passive-aggressive. I was not passive-aggressive before, but that's the fluent language, psychological language in Japan. And if you learn to be passive-aggressive, you'll have a lot less stress. So here's an example of what I learned to do. I have this wiry kind of black van driving teacher that follows me, Japanese guy, on second period. But on first period, I use the same classroom. First period, I use this classroom, then I have to go another classroom. When 60 people in an office, God forbid you'd have the same classroom for both periods on the same day.
That would just be wrong.
Why would you even want that?
No, that's wrong.
I never used the same lesson for any other class or school.
Yeah.
So I would never just leave it on the board for the second period.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Save myself time. No.
It's got to be unique.
So I'm in a hurry, and I wipe it off. It's a red marker, so maybe there's a couple of red dots that I missed when I erased it, right? Then I teach the second period. I'm commuting to another school, and I get an urgent phone call from the first school. It says, you didn't erase the first period class board. And I said, yeah, I erased it. They said, well, there's been a claim. And I said, well, let me guess. The guy who teaches second?
There's been a claim.
And she goes, could you come back? I said, he didn't erase it? She goes, could you come back later today? And I said, no, I couldn't. I couldn't do that. That would make no sense to me at all. And I happen to be there on Saturdays, and you have professional whiteboard cleaners. Girls from the office, for busy work, they just come there and do that. Is this really the school? Is this my friend you're putting me on?
Yeah.
This can't be serious.
No.
They said, well, we'd like you to, we put a note in your box and says, don't forget to erase the whiteboard next time. I said, you know I'm a grown man, right? Does it say that on my gaijin card? I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
You know, I've been working in that school for 22 years, and I've
Longer
never had
than
a problem.
That administrative person, probably, or that other teacher?
No, I've never had a problem. She goes, well, it's a complaint, so we have to deal with it. So I went back, and I had a lot of ideas. I'm going to confront the guy. Decided not to do that.
Good idea.
You know, don't confront the guy. Be passive-aggressive and wait till his second period ends, and then write on his board. And somebody else. But I just decided to be completely passive-aggressive. So I erased the board, and I left a couple of spots on purpose. And I knew they were going to call. Well, they called.
You laid a trap.
They called. This is on a Monday, and they didn't call on Monday, but he still complained. So they called me on Wednesday, and they said, yeah, first period, he said that it was still had spots on it. So I said, I didn't use the whiteboard that day. And she goes, well, then who left the spots on it? And I said, I don't know. I think you should probably call every teacher who uses that, maybe every teacher who's ever used that board. After second period, in lunch periods, students come in and they draw on the boards and stuff. We're not responsible. And I said, she goes, well, what should we do? And I said, I think you should actually call every single teacher and ask them, because this is really important. You should ask every single teacher. Ask the Friday teachers and the people who did Saturday makeup classes in that room. Call everybody who's used that room this year and ask them.
That's a great idea. Or put a notice in their box for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I think that'll solve the
a
problem.
Personalized notice.
It's obviously the biggest problem that we have with the coronavirus coming up. That's obviously the biggest problem. She called back and she said, we called some people on Friday and they said they didn't use it. And I said, well, I didn't use it either. So...
It's turning into a Poirot mystery here.
There's no locks or anything on the door.
3 little whiteboards, you know?
And I said, it's possible that it's not a teacher. She goes, well, so what should we do? And I said, I think I need to take the whiteboard with me when I leave.
I think
everyone has to bring their own whiteboard. So they just stopped bothering me. And every week after that, I made sure to leave dots, and nobody called me again. Because it's passive-aggressive to say, you left your bicycle in front of my door the other day, and it's kind of a problem. I don't have a bicycle.
Yeah.
No, but I saw you riding. Does your dog bite? No, it doesn't bite. Yeah, that's not my dog.
That is what we call gaslighting at its finest.
We wanted to talk about something serious, the police situation in the U.S., and Mike, you might know about the background of the Canadian. I think the Canadian example is interesting. Canadian requirements for being a police officer.
Yeah, I'm not a real expert on it, but I don't know. There's problems with racism and different things in Canadian police forces, but maybe they need more training. I don't know. What was it that you heard?
I heard they make $60,000 to $80,000 U.S. equivalent in Canada for cops. That's high for the U.S.
Oh, really? It's much lower in the U.S., huh?
Much lower. Apparently, they all have to have college education. That's not a requirement in the States.
I think so, yeah. I think you need at least an undergrad. Criminal justice, a lot of people take that.
So for people that, if you've been under a rock and you didn't hear, it's every couple of days, it's a black guy getting shot at Wendy's, and these are just minor infractions that they're being stopped for.
Yeah.
The old famous one in New York where the guy was selling individual cigarettes.
Yeah.
Of course, it carries a death penalty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it does.
Loose cigarettes.
Loose cigarette. He couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, especially if you're overweight, I'm overweight, and breathing is important. And,
Breathing is good.
So every couple of days, some black guy or Hispanic guy is getting shot by the police or dies in police custody. I'm actually working on a policy paper on this. I think the key phrase is police custody. See, the policeman's job is not to kill you. His job, it says on the badge, protect and serve.
Really?
Protect, I think you missed that part.
Yeah. You're supposed to read that once in a while and
what?
go, oh, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Serve what? The morgue with fresh bodies? So, I mean, and you know me, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal.
No.
I'm just a pragmatic person, and there's got
You
to
haven't been
be
shot in the heart yet by a cop. So
there's got to be a solution to this. It can't be that hard.
Yeah.
Like my dad used to say, they could put a man on the moon, but they can't make a mayonnaise cap that is easy to open every time. I don't know what that has to do with the moon.
You could start every conversation with that. Anything you hate. I think I put on a man in the moon, but they can't,
Here's my quick solution to this. First of all, yeah, it could be racial, but every one of these cops couldn't possibly be a racist that's killing these people. I'd say incompetence and indifference and a little bit stupidity plays in it as well. And you can always say, well, the guy in Atlanta that got shot to death, he did grab the taser. I agree, you should never grab a cop's weapon. But even if you grab a cop's weapon, that's an offense. You can go to jail for that. It's not the death penalty, though. Police there have been police that have been murdered as well, so everybody's paranoid. And it's not necessarily about race, because as you told me jokingly before, it happens to white people too. So
Right,
that makes
so
it
it's
okay.
fair.
It's fine. But I mean, we only hear about the non-whites that get killed because
They stand out more, maybe.
it starts to look like a pattern.
Yeah, well, it starts to look definitely a pattern.
And then you start to wonder what's the pattern, and people immediately go to race. Race is part of it. I think it's not hating people of the other race. I think it's indifference. It's like, this guy doesn't live in my neighborhood. I don't really care if he can breathe or not.
Yeah.
He's just lying anyway. You know how they lie. Can't breathe. He was lying about not being able to breathe, and now he's not breathing or lying.
Well, he's lying, but
He's
it's
laying
on a slab.
there.
He's laying.
It's called police custody. I think they all need to be retrained. And when you think about it, if you have someone of a different race and they think they're under threat because the police are holding them, police custody. Custody, we have child custody, and the child doesn't die.
Right.
So in police custody, if the child dies under custody, then they take that child and those rights away from you.
But Mark, the police felt threatened by the child.
Yes. Police custody, it's a hostage situation. I think maybe have the FBI train the cops so it's all uniform everywhere. Maybe give them a raise. Maybe every time you call the cops, have the ambulance come too, or have an ambulance guy in the police car.
If it's a drug related or like something, a mental illness, they should call someone like from an ambulance or a mental health kind of provider.
Because there's an example of a couple weeks ago, a Hispanic guy. He was obviously ODing on drugs and he was going crazy, and they just wanted to keep him quiet, so they made him lay on his stomach. And if you're having a drug overdose, vomiting is a possibility, and you don't want someone on their stomach when they're vomiting.
Right.
And ask Jimi Hendrix, oh, wait, we can't. Because that's how he died. And so they just wanted to keep him quiet. Their problem they were trying to solve was keep him quiet and keep him calm. But they didn't inject him with anything, and there was nobody examining him medically. They didn't care. They put 3 yellow tarps on him. You can see this on YouTube. And they just kept saying, calm down, calm down. And eventually, you can hear him having trouble breathing.
You hear the death rattle.
Yeah, and he died. I'm watching this for 14 minutes, and I'm thinking, couldn't an ambulance get there within 14 minutes? Why don't you call the ambulance now? Guy's ODing. You suspect it. Call the ambulance.
Yeah.
If you don't have to use it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need a hostage negotiator in every team, because the hostage is the guy you've got in custody.
Right.
You want him to walk away, and if you have to charge him, you charge him. But the best case scenario is give him a warning or something. If you have to charge him for something, charge him. And with the case in the guy in Atlanta, he was at a Wendy's, right? And if you watch
he fell
that,
asleep in his car. That's
it's
all.
heartbreaking if you watch that video, because he's obviously drunk and he got caught, fell asleep on the drive-thru, and then the manager. Someday I'll be a Wendy's manager, not just a podcaster, but.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah, backseat Wendy's manager. If I was the Wendy's manager, I wouldn't have called the cops. I would have just had the guy pull over and say, have to come back in the morning, 7 a.m. I'll call the cops if you're still here.
Oh, I see. So he was parked in the parking lot sleeping.
Well, he was
wasn't
parked in a drive-through.
Oh, okay.
And he passed out.
He was blocking the drive-through.
So the manager asked him to drive into a secluded spot in the parking lot. And he did. And he went over the curb a little bit. But he said, I had him back off and I had him just turn the engine off. And I was going to have him sleep there. But he also called the cops. So the cops come in, wake the guy up. We've said before in other podcasts, New York style is, I'm your dad, I don't want you to screw up, and I'm going to give you a warning, but next time I come around, you're not going to like what I do next. But the LA cops are, we caught you, now you have to be punished. No warnings. So they woke the guy up, pulled him out of the car. It's heartbreaking because he admits he's drunk. He asked several times, my sister lives right down the street. Would you just let me walk away and go stay with her? And I would say, if the guy said that, I would say, how about we take you to your sister's place?
Yeah, exactly.
Our job is to keep you away from this vehicle because it's not safe to you or anybody else.
Right.
Protect. Did I mention protect and serve?
I heard that somewhere.
Why is that first? Take into custody and kill him?
Yeah.
The guy's in your custody. You can let him go. Yeah. All right. He's begging, and I had an experience like this before, not with DUI, but with my reverse car, where the cop let me go. And then he caught me again, and he said, if I catch you a third time, you're going to jail. Let me walk away from the vehicle. That's what you want to do, is separate the guy from the vehicle.
Yes.
So you need an ambulance guy, you need an EMT or something, check on his vitals. Is he so drunk that he's going to die? Overdose. If so, take him to the hospital. You need a hostage negotiator that says, look, we want to not take you in, and you don't want to go in, and you want to go home.
So let's solve this problem.
We'd like you to go home. Maybe we're going to disable your car.
Take his keys.
Put a boot.
Yeah.
Take his keys, put a boot. He might have more keys. Put a boot on it. Come back 24 hours later, take the boot off. You catch him again, he goes to jail automatically for DUI. But what they did was they talked to him, and he realized more and more cops are coming around. He knows he's going to jail. And this is no excuse. Of course, he grabbed the taser. If you study more about his case, he'd already been in prison and jail
he had a real
before.
reason not to go back.
He really doesn't want to go back. The guy's running away, and he's shooting a taser at you. Is there anywhere else you could shoot? Like maybe the shoes, shoot his
like Joe Biden said, right?
Yeah.
Why shoot in the leg?
But the police mindset right now, which is what has to change, is we caught the guy doing something bad. Now we have to fill out a report, take him into custody, and book him. No, you don't have to do all of that. You could actually still give him a ticket, or you could still say, we're going to take you to your sister's house, and when you sober up, we're going to talk to you again. We don't ever want to catch you doing this again.
Yeah.
The first part, he was begging to just go home. And I'm thinking, if that was me, if I promised to not touch that car for 24 hours, can I leave?
And he was trying to do the right thing when he moved the car over, right, from the drive-through. If he could have spent the whole night in the parking lot, and no one would have cared, really. They're not going to get like full parking lot 3 in the morning.
During the coronavirus, it's not exactly full parking lots anyway. You think about it now. If that had happened to someone else and he had known about that, and then that happened to him, he's going to drive home drunk. He's not going to stay in that parking lot.
Right.
What you want is him to sleep in the parking lot.
Exactly.
He's not hurting anybody.
No.
They said, you can't sleep here because it's loitering. And he said, can I walk to my sister's house? He could just walk anywhere. He's not hurting anybody now. They wouldn't let him do that. Now the cops are charged with murder. Maybe you should have let the guy walk home.
Yeah.
In each case, you can find criticism, but my main advice for this is have a trained hostage negotiator. And the hostage negotiator's job is not to take him in. It's to find a compromise.
Yeah.
Say, we're going to be surveilling you from now on, but we're going to let you walk home.
Yeah.
And we might even take your car away. But tonight, you're going home. All right? That's the most important thing. If he went home that night, he probably wouldn't be dead.
Yeah, and it kind of highlights as well what they call. I was listening to another podcast, the Fifth Column podcast. They did a great bit where they talked about the over policing and under policing dilemma, where it's like there's certain crimes that are over policed, like vagrancy and loitering and stuff like that, because they don't want homeless people camped out in front of businesses, right? And then there's other crimes that they just don't prosecute; they barely prosecute, and it also depends on where you are in a community, right? Certain areas, the cops are always there hassling people. But if you call the cops, they never show up to help you if you're in danger. So there's something is really wrong with the whole system, it seems, in a lot of areas. It's not all cops are bad, all cops are good. It's that the system is just poorly designed. It's not serving its purpose.
In every profession, you have a-holes in every profession. Yeah. And stick with me on this tangent. Even in comedy, sometimes.
No, that comedy was the one.
You've never met them.
Mark, what about the good comedians? Why are we always talking about the bad comedians? There's plenty of good comedians.
No, but this has been Mike Miller with Mark Bailey, and we'll talk to you soon.